It is society which, fashioning us in its image, fills us with religious, political, and moral beliefs that control our actions. Emil Durkheim. It is possible to make a payment with gold on the Ripple network. Ripple secured the same asset custodian for gold that is now working with the Canadian Mint, and a company called Gold Bullion International. GBI are already issuing balances on the Ripple ledger. There are also custody assets for Merrill Lynch.
Trade with markets was initially conceived as a way to improve the way precious metals trade, and the community allows the retail investor to purchase through a dealer to hold that gold at the Royal Canadian Mint.
This R3 project Tradewind is also working with the Royal Canadian Mint, like Ripple is,
which is a sovereign exposure, safe and secure, and not be faced with the choices of how much to pay or how much in storage costs to pay. So it's a very cost-effective, very streamlined.
This is Patrick Griffin from Ripple explaining that anything of value can happen on the XRP ledger.
Ripple is a general purpose database. It's just simply a spreadsheet. Anything can go in it, and we can denominate it in just about anything. So airline miles, loyalty points, G10 currencies, gold, stock certificates, options, derivatives, anything of value can go inside of the Ripple ledger.
At the Economic Club of New York, Brad Garlinghouse was asked about Facebook's Libra. I want you to pay attention to Brad's mannerisms when President Trump is brought up.
I really think that you need to use a cryptocurrency to solve a fiat problem. And we could also talk about this later, but I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. Libra, Facebook's white paper, they kind of positioned it as a new fiat currency. And that, of course, raises the ire of lots of governments.
Oh, yes, particularly the United States. As we know, Jay Powell is not a fan of it, and President Trump has said he's not a fan of it,
When Jay Powell was brought up, there was no reaction. When President Trump was brought up, there was a reaction. He awkwardly smiles and shrugs as Trump is brought up.
There's something very nice about having something solid. We used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard. We don't have that anymore. There is something very nice about the concept of that. It would be very, very hard to do at this point, and one of the problems is we don't have the gold.
So candidate Trump was in favor of the gold standard.
The IMF holds a relatively large amount of gold among its assets.
As a precious metals refinery, we see big potential in Ripple Consensus Ledger and the conversion of rights to metals into digital tokens or IOUs in the Ripple network. A precious metal IOU issued on the XRP ledger is redeemable for XRP.
Coming crisis hits, we'll see this repeated on a larger scale through the IMF, World Bank, and the Fed. Again, there will be nothing the White House can do. They have no direct control over the institutions that will carry this out.
Jim Rickards is famous for a theory called ICE 9. The next financial crisis, all the banks stop transacting between each other. They freeze transactions.
Not only for reasons of financial soundness, but also to meet unforeseen contingencies.
It almost seems like Donald Trump is intentionally trying to destroy the dollar.
Bringing back the gold standard would be very hard to do, but boy, would it be wonderful. We'd have a standard on which to base our money.
The IMF is the third largest official holder of gold in the world.
Peter Schiff believes that the central banks are quietly accumulating gold and waiting for the US dollar to implode. When the dollar implodes, they will go back to using the gold standard like they once did.
Its ties to gold, it's going to be the world severing its ties to the dollar. The world is going to go off the dollar standard and back on the gold standard. And I think that this is going to be a more precipitous drop in the dollar's value than it was in the 70s. And so we can see something equally as impressive in the price of gold.
XRP is an asset that can be used for settlement. It's kind of like gold that can instantly teleport around the world. It does actually move value, and there's nothing to settle afterwards.
Gold provides fundamental strength to the IMF's balance sheet. Gold holdings add to the credibility of the IMF's reserves in case it must deal with any non-repayment.
I'm a gold bug. I like gold. But I'm not going to find someone who's going to pay me in gold, and I'm not going to find a grocery store that's going to take gold. Wouldn't it be awesome if my employer could pay me and I just got gold? And I could go to the grocery store and maybe they price in whatever national currency they want to price in, but I sort of pay with gold.
President Trump has nominated Judy Shelton, and Judy Shelton has publicly stated the importance of a gold-backed monetary system and how crypto assets can work with a gold-backed monetary system. She has also liked the tweet XRP the standard.
Would returning to a gold standard help the U.S. economy? Can you talk a little about your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say I don't see it so much as returning, but more of a back to the future.
Okay.
I think that what a gold standard stands for is monetary discipline for its own sake.
Gold has been valuable in money since the dawn of time. There are still issues with gold, though. Some of the most violent times in history has been during a gold standard. A growing economy requires gold to be more expensive. As economies grow, the price of gold increases and nobody wants to sell their gold. This causes deflation and money velocity to drop, thereby causing trade to drop. Nations would rather hold the gold than to have the goods.
A gold standard, you did have that stability, and I think that's what's missing. And so I like the idea of a gold standard. I mean, it could be used in a very cryptocurrency way.
A hybrid solution between digital assets and gold, I believe, is a patch for these problems.
The point is, do you have a unified money system so that when you talk about the international marketplace, everyone is playing on a level monetary playing field? And it's very important.
This is an HSBC document. By investing in digital solutions such as blockchain technology, we can help to increase the velocity of trade globally. What does this mean? This means that R3 has the ability to breathe life into global trade. Currency is a representation of how many goods and services you can buy within that nation.
Who knows? What we do know is the coming crisis will involve a catastrophic liquidity shortage. There won't be enough capital in the system to keep the world economy going. But the Fed won't be in a position to print more dollars like they did the last time. That will leave the task of refloating the system to their fellow elites at the IMF. The IMF will take over and reset the monetary system, but not with dollars. This is how eras end. This is how empires and presidencies end.
You're watching the fiat monetary system come to an end, and they know this. This is why Mark Carney has suggested the synthetic hegemonic currency.
And growing imbalance between the increasing dominance of the US dollar versus the decreasing importance of the US economy. Second, the existing international monetary and financial system is becoming unfit for purpose. And finally, he proposes the idea of a new global digital currency, essentially a central bank-led Libra.
Libra was just a basket of currency. I predict that the synthetic hegemonic currency is going to need a portion of gold.
So unlike stock and bond markets, gold and silver markets tend to be somewhat static in the sense that you have these pools of metal that are sitting on balance sheets. They're not necessarily turning over like stock and bond markets. They're not being lent. They're not being borrowed as rapidly and in as much volume as the securities markets are. So what we found interesting is that once you've got clear title, clear record on the ledger like ours, assets become much easier to deploy as collateral, to borrow, to sell, and lend.
Blockchain technology makes the precious metals market more efficient. If we're moving to a monetary metal type of economy, blockchain's going to be involved.
That career was spent during financial crises of one sort or the other. And when you look at gold, silver, and other alternative assets, it will be very interesting for companies like us to help prepare the market for the next liquidity crisis. So what happens when people and institutions want to sell or exit some of their positions in alternatives? Will there be enough data? Hopefully, yes, on the blockchain. Will there be enough transparency about who holds what where? So we're looking for ways to make the next crisis, hopefully it will never come, a lot more manageable for the market itself.
This technology update that I've been talking about is going to make all markets more efficient. Essentially, what a crisis is a flash crash. A hybrid system of digital assets and precious metals will balance trade.
Today's system won't hold. The Chinese renminbi is the most likely candidate to take over the dollar as the world's reserve currency. China's already the world's leading trading nation, overtaking the US at the start of the decade. But a shift from dollars to renminbi as the world's reserve currency would be disruptive or require disruption. The last shift from sterling to US dollars was prompted by the First World War and led to a difficult interwar period. Carney suggests that the best solution may be to shift to a new multipolar system.
Bringing back the gold standard would be very hard to do, but boy, would it be wonderful. We'd have a standard on which to base our money.
Is Donald Trump going to take down the Fed and return us to a gold standard? Or are we going to have negative yielding CBDCs rob us? I guess we will find out. Hence, we are the victims of an illusion which leads us to believe we have ourselves produced what has been imposed upon us externally. Emil Durkheim. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe and like.